If you don't see you in the world, script your story.
Create your life.
Crée ta propre vie.
Create your life.
创造你的生活。
Create your life.
Crea la tua vita.
Create your life.
Ontdek je leven.
You better create your life.
Create your life.
Create la vie.
Create your life.
Create your life.
Beautiful people, this is the Create Your Life series. I'm your host, Kevin Y. Brown, and today we are coming to you, and I actually have a really, really amazing guest in the studio here today. She's actually voted one of the most beautiful women in the world. Not that that's what, she's all about. She has a lot more depth, but I just thought that was very interesting. She's actually the first person that I've ever met who has been rated one of the most beautiful people in the world. So, beauty goes more than skin deep. And for this young lady, she has beauty and brains. She is a native Washingtonian from the Washington, D.C. area with Trinidadian African-American roots. She's an award-winning writer, actress, playwright, director, educator, and producer for both film and the stage. Sounds like a superhero to me. Canady is the founder and CEO of her multimedia production company, Sepia Works. She is the CEO, author, co-creator of the children's media brand Callaloo. Originally conceived as a theatrical play, she has led her team in building Callaloo into a brand consisting of books, puppet shows, digital content, animation, arts, education, programming, and merchandise. Her first children's book, Callaloo, a jazz folktale, was published in 2013, in which she received the 2013 First Time Authors Award from the National Library of Trinidad and Tobago. Talk about the home team represented. Her one-woman play, Girls, 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 has been featured off-Broadway at national festivals and regional theaters. Her second play, Callaloo, a jazz folktale, was seen at the Ellington Theater and IATI Theater. For this work, she received a featured playwright she was a featured playwright at the 2013 Lincoln Center for Performing Arts Directors Lab. Beautiful people, I want you to say hello, but I also want her to say hello. Marjuan Canady, please say hello to the Create Your Life series.
Hi, Create Your Life. Thanks, Kevin, for having me.
Thank you for coming and just being so flexible with your schedule. And this is actually amazing. I couldn't even go through your whole bio. I feel like I would have been here for like another 5 minutes just talking about the great things that you accomplished. I feel like once I would have went through the bio, we would have had nothing else to talk about.
Oh, thank you.
So, man, being so amazing and so dynamic, I guess my first thing that I have to ask to you being that you playwright, you dance, you act, all of these things, how did you get into the arts?
My parents, especially my mom, really introduced me to the arts in the D.C. area, and I went and saw a lot of shows and plays. Mm-hmm. So it really just continued to push my interests in the arts. But I will say that being involved in sports as a child really helped me as a young woman because I gained just a competitive edge, mm-hmm. and it taught me a lot of discipline that I think artists, especially actors, need as you continue on your journey. Mm-hmm. So, I really was just engulfed in the DC community, in the arts, and it just kept growing. I went to a performing arts high school in DC, similar to LaGuardia here in New York. Okay. It's called Duke Ellington School of Arts. Mm-hmm. So that really gave me the foundation, the technique to keep going, really.
Right. Okay. So you got the technique started and things like that. I guess the other thing that I have to ask is your brand and your book, Callaloo. Both times that I mentioned it in your bio, it says a jazz folktale. So where did that come from? The interest in jazz?
Yeah, actually, Callaloo. originally started as a play that I wrote. It was my second play. And I never considered myself a writer. I had been acting for so long. I went to college and grad school in New York, and I really didn't see a lot of roles out there for me. So that's how I got into writing. But Callaloo was a play that I wrote where I wanted to explore my own identity as being first generation Caribbean American and from a child's perspective. And specifically looking at the folklore and the legends that come from the Caribbean and the whole Black diaspora. And we developed this play, colleagues of mine. It was inspired by my own memories as a child, and also a very good friend of mine, Etienne Charles, who's a Trinidadian jazz trumpet player and composer. So I ended up creating this play around his music, around my childhood. And a friend of mine from high school came and saw the play, and he saw it as a cartoon. And at the time, I was doing film in LA, and we really just merged our interest and our backgrounds and started developing it from a play into a book, into animated digital content, into puppetry. So within a couple years, we created really a brand for kids to love culture and history.
So that being said, can you tell us what exactly Callaloo is in terms of like a story? Like, who are the characters? Give us some insight into Callaloo. I don't want to skip over that,
Sure. Well, Callaloo, really Callaloo is a food, and it comes from, it has roots in West Africa, but it's eaten all throughout the Caribbean. It's similar to collard greens or gumbo in the U.S. In Trinidad, it's called Callaloo. In Puerto Rico, it's called asopao, but at the root of it, it's a spinach stew. So it's very symbolic for me why I named it Callaloo, to really pay homage to Black diaspora culture and history and how everything is interconnected. And we share a lot of similarities culturally, then we are different. So that is really what Callaloo is. But for my company, it's a children's media brand. So we promote cultural education and social awareness through all of our content that we make. And we do it through our books, through our live shows. We have an arts education curriculum that goes along with it, as well as all of the digital content. So right now, we actually have our main team is in D.C., but we have a team in New York as well as in L.A. too that helps build all this content. And we're all people of color, creatives of color who, to me, that's one of the most important things because we're creating an authentic voice for the children and the families that buy our content. And I think nowadays it's really important for, people of color, artists of color to understand that media making is so important that we're creating it from our own voices and that we know what we're doing too.
And that it reflects us, so you can see yourself.
Right.
What is your educational background? I know you went to a performing arts high school, but you also came up to New York, and so tell us a bit about that.
After high school, I moved to New York. I went to Fordham University, and I studied theater there, theater performance, and African American studies. And from there, I went on to NYU, and I studied art and public policy in the Tisch School. So that was a great experience for grad school because it really changed the trajectory of how I saw myself as an artist. I never saw myself as a traditional actor as much as I wanted to, just be on Broadway and, be in Hollywood, work in Hollywood. But really, I started to find my voice, out here in New York, auditioning and failing a lot. And I think that's one thing, successful artists, we don't talk about as much. We don't talk about all the rejection and the hard work that went into it. It seems like all these great things are happening, and they are, but I've also failed a lot. I've also worked, 6 or 7 jobs. I also lost a lot of friendships and relationships.
Because of the grind.
Exactly.
Can you tell us about Tell us those 6 jobs that you were working at that one time, or just name a couple of them, because like you said, that is something that's not talked about. And one big thing on the Create Your Life series is we want to get to the how. So if you could tell us about that. And I think I read in another interview that you did that you were getting denied parts in different pieces because someone said that they couldn't place you ethnically in the parts. So tell us about this grind in order to, be seen and be heard.
Yeah. Well, when I got out of college, I took a year and I was like, I'm just going to be an actor. I'm going to be out here in New York. I'm just going to grind out. And it was great because I went full force. I think I wasn't waiting tables, but I was doing catering. I was babysitting. I was working at a yoga studio. I was doing teaching artist work. What we do in New York. You gotta make it out. You gotta grind. Yeah. So, but those lessons taught me what I didn't want to do, what I didn't want to be spending my time doing, and I think you have to go through that. You have to go through, working all these jobs and, I won't say suffering, but in a sense, paying really dues. Waking you up. So I was doing that, when I got out of college and going on a lot of auditions, rejected, like pretty much to everything. And I found that, maybe I wasn't fitting into the traditional roles that are out here more so for theater because my identity played a huge part in the roles that were available. Right. So, I will say I was pretty depressed and pretty frustrated.
No, that's important to highlight.
Yeah, so, that's really the thing that fueled me to create my own work because I was told I was, not black enough. I was, too fat. I was too short. I was, not Latina enough. I didn't speak Spanish good enough. So there were all these things that I was not enough. And that was all those experiences, years, 5-6 years, that was the thing that, made me want to create my one-woman show. And it allowed me a sense of freedom where I could play 10 characters and I could play all these different things because actually those were all parts of me.
Right.
So, there is a little bit of raunchiness in me where I could play 40 ounce and I could play that rapping, you know what I'm saying? But there's also a part of me where I can play like a white girl because I grew up in a certain part of DC that I could tap into this white girl side of me. So, that was really a thing that woke me up for me to get comfortable with who I am.
And that's the callaloo, that's the stew, right? Even as people, we're multidimensional.
Right.
And it's important because a lot of times people only see us in one light. And it's like, look, I've done all these different things. Like, prime example, people look at me and never think that I played college basketball. And I'm like, bruh, for real. You know what I mean? And it's just so many times people try to put you in that box. So on that grind, you're dealing with depression. How did you make it out of, what motivated you to keep going? And then also, what motivated you to keep going during that time?
Well, I think once I started developing my one-woman show, I was figuring out, I was connecting the dots. I was, at the time, I was fresh out of grad school, and I knew I didn't want to work in the traditional sense of New York theater. But I also didn't have, a team of people working with me. So I really taught myself how to do a lot, how to, I just Googled everything, honestly, marketing. I worked in college. I was part of my Black student club. So I knew how colleges could bring in live shows and performers. So that was my first step. I had this content and I just started reaching out to colleges, bring me to your campus and I'll do this show. And it allowed me time to actually develop the show where I wasn't 100% sure of what I was doing. And I think that's the thing where a lot of artists and entrepreneurs get stuck where you're not 100% sure, so you give up on yourself. Where I was at least, I would say, 45-50% sure this was good stuff. And so I toured around the colleges, in the area for about a year. And I went from making $500, charging about $500 for the show, up to within 3 years charging $5,000 per show.
Right.
So there was a sense of financial freedom that came from doing my own work and not putting in as much time to do other people's work, where I said, okay, I'm not going back after this. Like,
Right.
this is a model.
Yeah. So on that journey to getting there, you know, from going from $500 a show, you know, because I can't pay any bills here in New York City. What was it that kept you motivated on that journey? You know what I mean? Like, who was in your corner? What were some things that they were saying to you? You know what I mean? Because sometimes as artists, man, you just want to stick your head in a pillow all day.
Yeah.
So what was it that, you know what I mean, kept that fire in you?
I can say that my family, my mom especially at that time, was so supportive of me. And it's funny because she always pushed me to, you know, do what I wanted to do. But I remember when I got out of grad school, she said, you know, when are you going to get a job? I will never forget that my mom said that, like, when are you going to get a real job? And I was so heartbroken. When I performed my one-woman show off Broadway and she saw it, she was amazed. Like, she said, never get a job. Never get a real job.
Oh,
yeah,
mom.
so my mom was like a huge support for me.
Yeah.
And she was one of the main inspirations for Callaloo as well. So, you know, having a supportive family, as well as, you know, making Girls, 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 those were all my friends. And, you know, networking within, you know, who was already around me, using my resources.
Absolutely.
So my friends, even boyfriends at the time, you know, they were very supportive. I learned how to edit. I learned how to direct. I learned a lot of skills from people in my corner that supported me.
Okay. What would you say is your superpower that you gained from that grind? Right? You know, like getting up there and starting, you know, getting all those rejections and stuff like that. What do you feel like is something that really, you know, came out of that, the new Marjuan?
From all the rejections?
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, you go through this period of time, like for me, like I grew up in foster care my whole life, right? And if I had to sum that up and say what it is that did for me, I know that I can't be broken. Like you can't break me. You know what I mean? Like if there's one thing that I know that I can do, it's endure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or overcome whatever is in front of me. So like what did that teach you about yourself and you know?
From all the rejections, I'd say that no one can outwork me.
Exactly.
When it comes to actually creating the work, producing it. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And if you doubt me, it's that fuel. And that's what I'm saying, like, as a young woman, playing sports, like, really helped me to feel that edge in me that, you know, you could be more talented than me. You could have a better voice than me. You could be skinnier. You could look better, whatever it is, but you're not going to outwork me.
Right.
I'm going to find a way to get it done. And, you know, I will say that as a child, I was actually very shy, and being able to perform and create my own work, it gave me a sense of courage in myself that I don't think I would have ever gotten doing anything else.
Okay. Well, tell us about this play, Girls, Girls, Girls. You know, you play 10 different characters. That sounds like a huge amount of work, and sounds a little tiring too. So tell us, man. Tell us about this, you know, this work of art that you've done, created.
Yeah. Well, Girls, 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 I started working on it in grad school. I had never written anything before, but I was so frustrated with, you know, just what was out here for, you know, women of color, young actresses. And honestly, I was really trying to get out of writing a thesis in grad school. So I just went to my chair, like, okay, I'm going to write a play. And I used the style of satire, very similar to In Living Color, the Chappelle Show, sketch comedy, to talk about very serious issues for me as a Black woman, a woman of color, trying to work in, you know, the public sphere and how identity plays a huge part in how people see me. And so the play stems from this fictional story where this rapper 40 Ounce is having auditions for his music video Pussy Rims, and he's looking for look at your face.
Oh, I already read I watched the clip and everything.
Well, it's funny because people, especially when I'm doing a Pussy Rims rap.
We're going to need to get some of these characters in this interview. I just want you to know that we know that you know that.
People are always shocked because, they see me physically and it's like, oh, she's so attractive and, I have a certain look, right?
She was voted one of the most beautiful women in the world, y'all. Just putting that out there. Go ahead.
So, okay, I'm going to go back to the actual structure of the show. So, 40 Ounce was looking for his auditions. Actually, it was inspired by
Plies
Busted Baby.
Yeah, I'll be doing my research.
You're doing your homework. Plies Busted Baby, which was an actual thing, on TV. There was girls auditioning to be his new Busted Baby. So, I took a lot of...
video vixen, y'all. Sorry, I just had to...
Yeah, I took a lot of what was already out here in hip-hop, in pop culture, that we were and still are being fed. And it was really inside, a comical, but, through satire, it's serious. It's making you think, like, why do I listen to this? How is this affecting, young people? How men interact with women, how Black interacts with white, Latino interacts with Black, and how we all work together and live together and how public media affects us. So, the show is 10 characters and all of them are affected by one another, but they don't know each other, all surrounding Black women's body politics, hip-hop, history, race politics. And by the end, you're kind of left with, there is no right or wrong answer. You have to come to a decision for yourself. So within 4 or 5 years, we toured the show to about 30 colleges. We're actually working on a documentary now, finishing that up, and got to meet incredible women who work in the community around women and girls issues. So it's been a really wild journey with that show.
I love it. Tell us more about the different characters. I know you probably can't. Well, you probably could name all 10 of them off the top of your head. But can you give us like a little sample of a couple of them? Because I know I saw some Sarah Bartman jeans or something like that in the reel, and I know who Sarah Bartman was.
Yeah.
And so if you could just shed some light on us.
Sure. Well, there are 10 characters. Beverly Bruschetta is one of... I mean, just saying some of these characters' names are funny enough.
It's creative.
Yeah, so if people ask me, like, how'd you come up with Beverly Bruschetta, that name? And I was like, I was writing and I was eating some bruschetta and I just said, Beverly Bruschetta, and it stuck. So Beverly Bruschetta is really one of the main characters. She runs this network, the Black Women's Network. And funny enough, it's kind of funny because the play, at the time I started writing in 2010, and I thought, what if there was a Black Women's Network on TV? What would be the content? And now we have Centric. Before, it wasn't there. But my idea was that Beverly Bruschetta, who's very much inspired by Wendy Williams.
And a little bit of Oprah, right?
Oprah. She hosts all these crazy shows, have all these guests, and it's just... She controls people through the media, but she's also trapped in it in herself, and it's detrimental to her own, her own psyche. So Beverly Bruschetta is one. 40 Ounce is a rapper who is really kind of the thread. His music is the thread. You only see him for a couple minutes in the show, but his song Pussy Rims, connects so many different people. Sarah Bartman, who was an actual woman from South Africa, she is partnering with 40 Ounce, selling her jeans, Bartman Bottom jeans, which is a spin on Apple Bottom jeans. And she's trapped in this psyche of, should I sell myself? How do I profit off of, for her bottom, which we see a lot of today still. And
but also Sarah Bartman was put on display at zoos because she had a huge bottom, and basically kind of like ridiculed, like sexualized and made fun of and things like that. So I just want to let the audience know.
And I think that character especially, it means a lot to me. And it's actually one of the hardest monologues I remember rehearsing, trying to figure out where she fit, because she is the only person that is a real person, a real woman.
Right.
And it was a very serious topic of her whole life, and a lot of people don't know about her. So I remember, especially going to colleges doing the show, kids would come up to me and be like, oh, I never heard of that person, Sarah Bartman, or, they would want to go and do some more research. So that particular character opened my eyes to, I always knew the power of theater and performance, but how even I have to be aware and be critical about the content that I create. And, I learned about Sarah Bartman when I was in college. I was a Black Studies major. I was 22. And these are kids who are maybe 16, 17 who are just learning about her and opening their mind up to, a lot of things that have been hidden from us in history.
Can you give us like a sample of some of those personalities of the people in your play? I just want to see it in person.
And I can't curse, right?
Preferably not. I can edit it out. So if you need to, it can be edited. Just do what you do. I'll take care of it. Just do what you do. I'll take care of it.
Well, it's not real cursing, but Good afternoon, and welcome to the BWN Newsroom. I'm Beverly Bruschetta, reporting on the most critical issues facing Black women today, from politics to entertainment and everything else in between. So we're going to hand it over to 40 Ounce. He's got the latest hit. It's called Pussy Rims. 40, are you there? What's up, Bev? You know what I'm saying? Kevin, you know what I'm saying? We in here. We in here. Create Your Life series. All right. So, we're about to give you a sneak peek of the remix real quick. Pussy Rims, it's the hottest track out right now. All right. And I got my boy Jason over here. Gutter money, Jason.
I want to hear the rap now. I'm like,
all right, I'm gonna give you the rap. You wildin', Kevin. You wildin'.
Got some heat coming.
All right. Damn, shorty got her hair down her back with her ass so fat and the waist like a tic-tac. Yo, that's how I like my hoes. They drop it real low, bounce that shit like a yo-yo. Yo, I don't know how she get Bartman Bottom jeans on or with a thong on, stank panties up a crack, rat-tat-tat, like that from the back. Come on, baby, I get pussy. And rims. I get pussy. And rims. That's all I got. That's all I got right now. You know what I'm saying? That's all I got.
Wow. I'm a round of applause that, though. You're very talented. Like, that was the voice that you've been using this whole time.
And that was with no warm-up, okay? Yeah. That was like right on the spot.
That's that real talent. You could just hop in the character, and do what you do, what you're great at.
Thank you.
We're talking about that in the positive image that's necessary for women. How do you feel like Girls has sparked conversation, and what has been some of the feedback that you've gotten in regards to the actual art itself?
Yeah. Well, one, I think the actual performance style, it's interesting because when I started performing it, a lot of young people especially, they were just amazed at how I could play so many different characters. And, they didn't really understand that, I had went to school for theater, and it was an actual technique and the style of solo theater I studied for a long time. So Whoopi Goldberg's one-woman show was a huge inspiration for me. And I studied how solo performances are the best ways to perform them. And it's really just raw. It's just me on stage, all black with a few props. So I really wanted, from a stylistic point of view, for people to respect me as an artist, as a performer. And I tell you, I performed everywhere, like the train, off-Broadway, schools, parks, anywhere. So I think that was a thing that really got me to, it gave me a lot of confidence as a performer. So many years of being rejected and not really seeing myself in, moving up in terms of the acting world. I got a lot of respect, and I got to perform really all over the world through this show. So not only from the artistic side, but, working with young people. And, that was another thing that sparked, what I really want to be doing as an artist, as a creative, as working in education. How can I create work that brings, especially youth of color to the theater? When you go to these Broadway shows or you go to more commercial theater, you hardly see people of color there, but then you don't see young people there and seeing work that they can relate to.
You should have seen, we had the cast of Sinking Ink on the show a few months back. They just finished up their play. It was hip hop at the theater, though. Okay. It was an amazing play. I went like 2 or 3 times. Yeah. Nsangu Nikam. I think I'm pronouncing his last name incorrectly, but that was a phenomenal piece of work. A lot of times artists, they fail to become profitable or to be able to make a living solely doing the art. It seems like you've done that, or that you're doing it as well. What are some of the keys? Can you give us like 3 strategies that you've learned? I know you said something about finances as well being something that you've been able to master. But what are some 3 tips you would give somebody who's an artist who needs to make sure that they can pay their rent with their art solely?
I mean, one, I'd say you really got to think out of the box. Like I said with my one-woman show, that I didn't necessarily go the traditional route of finding a theater to back me and like waiting around for somebody to give me something. So at some point, you just got to do it. You just got to figure out a way to get it done. You say you want to do something, just figure it out in terms of resources. So thinking out of the box and building your resources. What do you have right now? Instead of looking at it from, I'm not where I want to be even right now, but what do I have around me? Who are the people in my network that can help me and assist me in a real, authentic way, not in a way where like you're just taking from other people, but you're inspiring other people, you're empowering other people. So I'd say that, and building your team. Building your team is so important. In the beginning, I was doing, pretty much everything. And even now with Callaloo, there's 2 or 3 of us who do everything, the core of everything. But, at this point we have assistant writers, we have editors, we have, videographers, we have actors. And the goal, with that is I don't want it to just be about me. I want actors of color, to have a place where they can create, where they can be valued, because I know what it's like to step into a room and not feel respected and not feel like, the director is just seeing me, one-dimensionally. So that's important. And I think the last tip, just keep learning. If you don't know something, just go to a library, go to Google, look it up. I tell people with Callaloo, people think actually we were picked up by this big publisher and, no, we did everything ourselves. We're self-published. My business partner and I, we didn't know how to make kids books, but I was a storyteller. He was a visual artist. And we figured that out. We learned how to format books, how to market them, how to create press releases. And so the business side is the side that you can't be afraid of. You know, if you don't know anything about marketing, either you learn the basics or you invest in those people that can help you. So learning is so important. I mean, I'm a huge nerd, so I'm always learning. I'm always going to the library. It's that curiosity that as a child, I was always curious and I was always asking questions. So even when I teach, you know, I teach like little ones from 3 up into the university level. I always give them an opportunity to ask questions because it's not just about me telling you, you know, this is the history, this is how you do it, but what's your voice? What do you think? And I think that's what's missing a lot in education. Teachers are just always telling the students to repeat it. But luckily for me, I had amazing teachers that allowed me to think critically and even from, you know, an academic side that I really wanted to be. I wanted to be like Zora Neale Hurston. I mean, I still do. She's one of my, you know, my role models, Zora Neale Hurston, Lorraine Hansberry, you know, artists, but also scholars, thinkers, activists. So I encourage, you know, my friends, artists, and even my students, you know, you can't just be one thing. You can't just be an actress. What about those other sides of you? Not all of us are going to be entrepreneurs or be activists, but there are parts of yourself that you have to discover.
Right. You're a multi-dimensional young lady. You also, you know, in that being an artist, a lot of times as an artist, we have a lot of ideas and different things that flow through, right? We're influenced. Oh, we see somebody else being successful at something. We go try that for a second. It's like, no, we can't do that. You know, we learn to actually just stay in our lanes. What was it about Callaloo that made you say, you know what, this is the idea that I'm going to stick to and that I'm going to build on?
Well, I think that I still struggle with this because I always have ideas. I have a little book of, you know, all my ideas that I just, I could be on the train, I could be driving, I could be in the shower, and I just come up with these ideas. But it's the right time for certain ideas to come to fruition. But with Callaloo, I knew that these stories were meaningful, they mattered, not only because, I mean, it was my childhood, but when I started to do that research, when I started talking to elders, when I started to cross between not just my culture, but tapping into Latino culture, into, you know, even Asian cultures, and seeing how these are stories that traditionally we don't hear about, that, you know, let's say Walt Disney Company, they've profited millions, billions of dollars off of European folktales and have never really talked about Black, Latino, Eastern storytelling. So I knew that they were important, and it was just a way of getting, you know, creating the content in a way that was authentic, but I will say, maybe this is not the right word, but to make it sexy, to make it sell. And partly that's the business side of it, where we have artists of color who are creating this world, this Callaloo world that makes people want to, you know, want to have us. And I think as time went on, 4 years later, we're getting calls from Sesame Street, from Nickelodeon, from, you know, and that wasn't necessarily the goal. The goal was just to get the story out.
But how did you know that this was the thing that you needed to focus on? You know, what was that defining moment? Can you boil it down to like one experience when you was like, you know what, we got something. This is what I need to run with.
At the time, I was living in LA, and I was still trying to, make it as an actress in TV and film, which I'm actually glad I went out there and did all of that, because it taught me a lot about what myself and what I shouldn't be focusing my energy on, and what my actual skills were. So the last 6 months I was in LA, 2014, we were just getting booked so much with Callaloo. I was literally coming back to the East Coast every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was ranging from, embassy performances to, museums to TV appearances. And it was like we were on fire, and I couldn't keep denying that, we had something. So I think that was the thing a couple years ago that made me shift my focus, that I had to put everything else on hold so I could really go in and figure out what this is. And at first it was just a play, then it was just a book.
Right,
but it took about a year and a half, 2 years to really understand that this was a brand, and this was it's much bigger than just selling a book. We're selling a lifestyle for kids, for all kids, to appreciate culture, and especially Black diaspora culture.
Okay. How hard has it been to create this brand and to build it? And then I also want to know, when you were coming back to the East Coast, did you already have the team set up, or did the team slowly build after you had already kind of jumped out the window and started doing Callaloo?
It was hard.
Tell us about it. Tell us some of the challenges, because oftentimes, you listen to interviews and people tell you their what they're doing now currently, and they tell you their why, right? But the only thing that you can actually duplicate is the how. And so, tell us about, some of the challenges that you had. Tell us about the triumphs. I mean, the triumph is where you are now. But, what were some of the things that you had to overcome? Because I feel like our listeners really need that opportunity to see inside. If they want to be like Marjuan Canady, then they need to understand what it takes, and what you're doing on a consistent basis in order to be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we first started, it was a shift for me that I really had to be a leader, and I had to stop shying away from delegating and figuring out all of the nuts and bolts to make it work. And it was difficult for me because I never considered myself a writer. So that was one thing, now I have to write all this content. What am I doing, And I'm writing for children's books. So I would spend hours in the library. My friends are partying, traveling. They're with their boyfriends, they're living their lives, their late 20s. And I'm in the library reading children's books for hours, or, trying to dissect, what worked for Gullah Gullah Island. And then why did they fail? And really submerging myself into this. And I spent countless nights for months, years, with my business partner, Nabi, figuring things out. And it was scary because I didn't know why I was doing this. I just had this sense, this is what I was supposed to be doing. And at the time, it was just my business partner and I. I mean, it was like we were crazy. Nobody at the time really believed in us except for our immediate, family. We submitted to a lot of literary agents, and, we went the right way, and we got rejected, And like I said before, when you reject me, I just want to prove you wrong on top of that. So, I mean, I would say just in the beginning process, it was very lonely. I spent countless nights and months, just creating the content and not fully sure of what I was doing. And now looking back at it, when I look at the first book compared, right now we're working on our third book, I can see the growth that I've had just as a writer. And, looking back like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Or, but at the time, that's where I was at as a creative. And then assembling a team, that took time as well to figure out, okay, what do I really want? And being very stern about it. And I think as a woman, business owner and a director, I can, I'm a nice person. I'm bubbly. I'm kind. But it took time for me to, tell even my business partner, like, this is what I want and this is what I think is best. And of course, I've made mistakes, but knowing that I have a sense of, what I want and I'm calling the shots and being okay with it, which it's still a growing process where you have to find mentors and you have to find people that you trust that can help you in that decision making.
What does your peer group look like? The people that you're around, like who are those people, on a consistent basis?
I was just telling Jason, my friend, I was just telling him, like, on the way here, how important friendships are and how the people you surround yourself with really dictate, who you are, who you're spending your time with. And my friends are incredible. Sometimes I look at my friends like, Beyonce is like reposting their work and, they're just inspiring that if I'm having a low day or a bad day, I can just hit up one of my friends. Texting, no matter how busy they are. Yeah. And they're there, like, and it's not even about, it's not about, boasting that, oh, I'm working with this person and you're not, but, being there to support them. So I think all of my friends are at different levels, but at the core of it, I always say, if my friend is winning, I'm winning because we're all in this together. If I'm going to the top, I'm taking the people.
Yeah, you're taking the squad.
I'm taking the squad right with me.
Yeah, definitely. What are some misconceptions about creating a media brand that you feel others need to know?
Well, misconception that it's easy and it happens overnight. And that's one of the big things.
Wow. Yeah. A lot of times people don't talk about those hours in the library, right?
The research alone, the thought process. Someone told me a couple days ago, I won't say any names, but they were like, oh, you should have a Jewish character and you could have this character. And, but you're failing to realize it's taken us about a year to make one character. Right. And then all of the choices of products and outreach and development comes from those characters. So it's not something that, I could see all these different characters, but the timing is not right. And and at a certain time, you have to, wherever you are in your business and your brand, you have to make those hard decisions on what is feasible, what is possible, what can be scaled right now, and what you have to think about in the future based off of where you are financially, who your team is, what can you, how you can build with your audience. So it's not going to happen overnight. Do the research, do the homework, see who your competition is, and
I read something a while ago that said, especially for podcasting, being on the radio, it said go in there and look at your competition's negative comments, and that'll help you actually even build your business. But something else that you said that makes a lot of sense to me is that everybody's going to want to hop on your bandwagon at some point, or they're going to try to give you instruction about what it is that you do. And I actually experienced that today. Somebody slid in my DMs and was like, we should do a podcast together. And I'm like, have you been missing the last 2 years that we've been on radio? I didn't say that, and it was like, oh, we should do something around education. And I'm kind of like, you're not following what I'm doing. You just jumped in because I wrote a book on how to graduate college for free, but you're not You know what I mean? You're not in tune with what's going on. But, everybody, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And it's like you really have to trust your gut.
Definitely.
And like you said, for those 2 years, or those few years where it was just you and your business partner, you know what I mean? Y'all just had this desire in your gut that helped you know, I need to be doing something else. I need to be doing things different.
That's a great point because I still make decisions really based on my gut.
Mm-hmm.
I can sense. Yes, I look at, the logistics and, my accounting person, we look at that, but it's also a feeling like, this isn't right for the brand.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't work with somebody like this just based off of their history or their integrity
mm-hmm. or,
just a feeling that I have. And I think as I continue to grow, I'm learning, I've made mistakes where I've worked with people just because I thought I could get some good press. And it really didn't matter. I ended up, breaking my neck and staying, late. And, it ended up hurting me in different ways. So that saying that once you have a little bit of success, people are going to try to tell you what you should be doing when deep down what you want to be doing and what is possible. So making those hard decisions for yourself, it's something you got to talk to yourself like, right. Marjuan, what are you doing? No, you don't want to work with this company. Your goal is to work with Netflix, HBO, these people. Right. So everything that you do has to take you in that direction. You have to say no.
Hello.
Say no sometimes.
How do you measure the difference or the change in your audience members or people who have the opportunity to experience Callaloo or your other works?
These are some good questions.
Hey,
that homework, that research.
Life,
You said measure the experience.
Yeah, just to, are there any particular stories where you've seen someone walk away wow, this changed my life? Do you remember anything specifically? Or do you guys try to measure, how people are being impacted by Callaloo? By Sepia Works?
Well, with Callaloo specifically, I see it with the kids. Mm-hmm. Just how happy they are. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult to measure it in terms of numbers, but when kids send me thank you notes, when they make videos and they send it to me, or parents send me so much all the time, pictures and just how much they love the content, how they're ready for the next book or the next story, like when's the next thing coming out. So that actual live, that interaction that, sometimes, working for maybe the Disney company or larger companies, you don't get to know what the customer actually wants, thinks, and feels. So as much as I can, even, when I do plays, I always want that audience interaction, a talk back, or find out, what did you think about this? Because in my mind, or my team, we create the work, but then when we give it out to the world,
right,
it's open for you. It becomes part of you. You have Callaloo on your shelves now. So to know that Callaloo started in my living room, just writing on the floor of my apartment in LA, working 3 or 4 jobs.
Right.
Now, kids all over the world have Callaloo, from Africa to Europe to all over the U.S., South America, the Caribbean. And people are constantly, telling me, kids, how they love Winston, they love Marisol, they want to go to New York. Oh, kids tell me this all the time. When they come to New York, they want to take the magical subway train.
Nice.
Because that's like the main, how all the kids get to these countries, from this magical train. So parents tell me that, kids that maybe live in California or never been to New York, is the train really magical? So
yeah. I love it. So I want to flip it a little bit and ask you this question. We've talked a little bit more about the importance of women and what they represent, especially in media. being voted one of the 19 most beautiful women in the world, how does that, what did that mean to you, and how did that make you feel as well, and what are your thoughts around that, getting that type of label or recognition?
Yeah. Well, Caribbean Current voted me a couple years ago, I believe, and I was a little shocked. I can see why. I know why women put so much into their exterior, because of what society wants women to, how they want women to operate and function. And I'm not saying men don't at the same time, but it's different. And I think, honestly, it didn't mean that much to me.
Okay.
Because I don't walk around thinking so much about what my physical being says to the world. Right. I understand it, and it gets me into rooms sometimes, but it also, from my past, it has pushed me out of rooms. Or there's been stereotypes because, I may look a certain way, or if you may be attractive, you're not intelligent. So I will say that when I was little, I was a little girl, I remember family members, relatives, they always just say how pretty I was. And deep down, I hated it. Because that was all that people could talk about when it came to me.
Right.
So I know how beauty affects women, and you can use it for a positive. But I think it can also be very limiting for women, young women developing, that we're so concentrated on what we look like. Are we developing our mental? Are we developing spiritually? And I think that's the real beauty, that this is never, I'm not a finished product, as no one is, but I'm taking steps to, find out who I really am. And I think that's the light. I think when you see a beautiful being, right? The
whole person.
Yeah, you're seeing the whole person. You're seeing someone who is doing the work on themselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But it gets detrimental, I think, when media only gives that message to young women, that they should only be concerned about
aesthetics.
The aesthetics and the outer. That's just one little part of who you are. Right.
And I feel like we said that earlier. You're a multi-dimensional person. I want to switch back and ask one more question about Callaloo before we dive into the dolphin tank. Before you did Callaloo, did you do any customer development or discovery? Did you go out and say, hey, well, would you like to, would you be interested in a children's book or children's brand about, like a focus groups or anything like that? Did you go out and survey anything like that, or did you just go straight with the gut?
We didn't do traditional focus groups. We created the book, and honestly, we had no plan for it.
Gotcha.
And I think sometimes we were talking about your gut, following your gut. There's a balance that I have where, sometimes creatively, just as an artist, like, I just got to get this out. I may not have a plan. In the beginning, Callaloo was just something I had to get out. Like, I was tired of doing girls. I just wanted something new. And then when my business partner approached me, I was really shocked that, he believed in it. Yeah. Believed in the actual story. And I respected him as an artist as well, that we didn't necessarily have everything figured out. That once we created the book, we did little readings. And when we did the readings in the community, we found that having something because my background's in theater, it was much more a theatrical experience. So our focus group really came from going out, doing these readings. When I tell you that first year, we must have did like 50, 60 performances for free, just figuring out how do we perform this. And my business partner, when they showed up with this puppet, he went behind my back. I told him don't do it, which I'm glad he did. He went behind my back, got this puppet builder from Sesame Street to build our main character. And it changed everything because now we were performers who were performing our own book within the puppeteering style, which you hardly see performers of color, actors of color working in this style. So our focus group really became walking around with our puppet in the community and engaging with people and figuring out, you know, what did they like about this puppet? What did they like about this book? And it became instant. Then we got a second puppet. Now we have a third puppet. Now we're training other actors to work in the puppetry style. So a lot of it was by mistake, by accident, going out in the street, grassroots style, and not necessarily sitting in a room and like, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And now we're going to bring in these major brands and in the traditional sense, because we didn't have that. We didn't have those resources.
You didn't build in a vacuum.
Yeah, so in a traditional sense, we didn't, do focus groups or try to figure out how to acquire customers, but we looked at our own community and what was missing. And I think when artists want to create work where they can profit from it, you really have to think about what is missing. How can you, just like any product, why do I buy this water over this water? Yeah. What is missing? Is it the price point? Is it, is it the material that's in the water? So we realized very early on that there was no one, we didn't really have competition in the sense of artists of color, a business of color that was creating content for children of color in a lot of different platforms. There are a lot of authors and illustrators of color who have children's books that are independent, but they also don't perform. They also don't do puppets. They also don't do animation. Right. They don't do all these things.
So you made yourself, you carved out a niche.
Yes.
I like that. And you did a lot of customer development if you did those 60 plays. That's where you find out what worked and what didn't. And I think the other thing is really figuring out, people might say that they want something, but will they pay for it?
Right.
Those are two completely different things. And a lot of times, the validation for an idea or, serving a need is currency, period.
Definitely.
And
you got to take that first, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 2 years, and grind out and do that work for free because maybe people won't pay for it. Maybe it's not good enough, but
you got to keep progressing.
At a certain time, we don't work for free at this point. So if you want Callaloo, you're gonna have to pay for that.
Cash out. All right, so Marjuan, we're about to we're about to dive into the dolphin tank.
Oh God.
Are you ready for the dolphin tank?
I think I'm ready.
I mean, there's no sharks in there, so it's okay.
I actually love sharks. It's one of my favorite animals. So.
Okay. Well, we only got dolphins.
I'm not
in here
scared.
For you.
I'm not scared.
Oh, okay. Well, what's the 40 ounce gonna come out in a second? Watch out. Okay, here we go. Rapid fire. What's the top tech that you're using to make your business run smoothly right now?
My top tech. Can I give a couple?
Of course you can. We need those.
Oh my God, QuickBooks.
Winning.
Yes, to QuickBooks.
Absolutely.
I mean, for the longest, we were just using spreadsheets, Google Sheets.
Drive.
Thank God for my other business partner, Tatiana. She's more of the numbers person.
Yeah.
So everything is in QuickBooks, all our invoices. It just makes life so easy. I also use Wunderlist. My to-dos, it's an app. I mean, I think any type of to-do list is important because it just manages everything by priority that I have to do. So that, and oh my God, iCalendar or any type of Google Calendar, digital
that's life.
calendar. I try to coordinate, on certain days, I only do business work. I only, work on financial, or on certain days, I only do meetings. On other days, it's just creative. And I mean, it's still a challenge, but those, like, iCalendar is a savior for me.
Okay. Favorite quote?
See, this was hard because I have a lot of quotes.
Give us 3. Give us a couple.
It's like I have 3, but I can't remember fully all of them. So, I'll say one quote that is actually my quote.
Okay, come on with it.
So my quote is, if you don't see you in the world, script your story.
I like that.
And that's something that it's actually on my website. That's why I remembered it.
Okay.
But it means, no matter what it is that you do, whether you're an artist or, if you're whatever field you're in, if you're not seeing yourself, if you're not doing what you want to be doing, then you have the power to change it. And taking tiny steps and seeing, where I was a week ago, where I was a month ago. You have those goals, write it out. And anything that is not getting you to that goal, whether it's relationships, whether it's jobs you take, you got to cut it out. And being very real with yourself and where you're at. So I'll say that.
Okay. What's your favorite book or a book that you felt has been most impactful on you?
Oh, man. I have 2. Sula by Toni Morrison and Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston.
Okay. Now, this is a question that nobody can escape the Create Your Life series without answering.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, she got the voice on. What 3 things would you tell someone looking to create their best life?
3 things. Okay. The first thing I'd say, be patient. Be patient with yourself. Do the work. Just to elaborate on that, going to school, finding a mentor, actually doing the work, doing the homework, it's not going to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So really put the time and the work in. And the third thing, it's something that I'm still learning myself. Really just enjoy where you're at. Enjoy the process. And not to be so hard on yourself. Life is short, so be clear about what it is that you want. And you can't look at other people's achievements and try to measure yourself up to them. You can look at it as inspiration, as, maybe a role model. Like I have a lot of role models, but I never say I want to be just like this person, because what I want to be, and it's taking time for me to accept this, what I want to be doesn't exist yet.
Right.
And
I like that.
And I want to be in film. I want to be in TV. I want to be in radio. I want to be a mogul. And there are people that I could see myself living a life similar to, but what I want to do hasn't been done yet. So I have to embrace that everywhere I go. You never know who you're going to meet. Like, we met each other. Met each other, on social media, we knew about each other, but in person, we met each other in Harlem.
Yeah, I was definitely walking past
on
your
a warm
table.
summer day.
And I was like, I walked past you, right? on 125th, I walked past you. I mean, on Lenox Ave, and I walked past and I said, "Oh, that's the Callaloo lady." And then I'm like, do I go and say hello? She's with a group of people. And I'm like, that's kind of creepy. But then I'm like, you know what? I know I'm legit, and I know what my intentions are. So I turned around, and I just came back, and I was like, hey, look, I'm not trying to be a creep, but, bam, 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 bam. You know what I mean? And this is like...
And here we are.
Right.
I mean, you got to take chances.
Yeah.
You never know, the worst that could happen is someone say no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's it. You pick yourself up, and you figure it out, just like everyone else did.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Okay, so what's next for you, the team, and Callaloo, and what's coming up?
For Callaloo, we're working on our third book, so that is dropping in February 2018. Okay. And that's actually going to be our last book for a while. Okay. So that looks at the Gullah history, African American culture. We're aiming to be on TV, a home for a network very soon. So we're doing that, and we're building a team in New York to do all of our live shows. So it's a lot happening still with Callaloo. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm branching off to do more film work, more producing and directing documentaries and narrative work, doing more voiceover work. I've spent a long time focusing on Callaloo, so I really want to start to branch out and get back to some of my other creative passions and just all those other little projects I have in my little book. Right. So, yeah, that's what's next. And a lot of teaching. That never stops. So,
what do you teach?
I mean, I have a nonprofit, so we work with schools and organizations all over the country to create arts programming for youth of color. So I actually have a girls program called Miss Media that has been my focus. It actually was something that came out of doing Girls. And like I said before, I always had this idea to do it, a young woman of color leadership program, teaching girls about actual media skills, technical skills. That came from Girls, but it wasn't the right time to do it. So now I'm focusing a lot of my time to building programs and classes for teenage girls and college girls to learn more about, cinematography, journalism, how to craft your own stories through media making. So I'm partnering with a few organizations to do classes and a few upcoming community conferences this year or next year.
How do we keep in contact with you and what's going on?
The best way is online. I'm on social media, all of the platforms, Facebook, Twitter. I'm not really on Snapchat. I try to, but I want to say my life is not that interesting.
To you. I'm sure some people, it's people on this, let's shout out everybody on IG Live and watching. On Facebook Live, who is actually, some people are amazed by what it is that you do in the life that you live.
Yeah, I mean.
We all have success in music.
A lot of it is me just, sweating, trying to figure out what's next. But yeah, I'm on social media at Marjuan Canady, and then my website, www.marjuancanady.com. Those are the best ways to stay in touch with what's next.
And that's MarJuanCanady. Right. Okay. And how does everyone stay abreast of what's going on with Callaloo and
Callaloo? Same thing. We're on social media at Callaloo the book. We're on all the platforms. Our website is callalookids.com.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Marjuan, thank you so much for being on the Create Your Life series. So happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm glad we ran into each other and made this happen. It's been a couple months in the making.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great things take time. So just look at it in that
patience.
way. Yes, and patience. Absolutely. And we're relentless, though, so we won't stop. We're going to try to track you down. So, beautiful people, thank you for listening. Beautiful people, this is the Create Your Life series. I'm your host, Kevin Y. Brown, and we are here in the studio with our guest, Marjuan Canady, and it is time for the turnaround. If you don't know what the turnaround is, it's when our guest gets to ask me 3 unfiltered questions, anything that they like, and I have to answer them. Thanks, staff. So, Marjuan, are you ready for the turnaround?
Yes.
Oh, no, she put that voice on.
Yes.
It sounds like it's about to get real up in here.
I've always wanted to do this. Okay. So, first question. What has been your biggest failure?
Yike, my biggest failure? I won't say failure, I'll say challenge, because I feel like the only way you can fail is if you stop.
Okay.
And
Good
I think
point.
that I've had a lot of challenges. Wow. So many challenges. I think early on, managing the staff and things, it was being overcritical or unnecessarily critical of other people's mistakes, especially if they were on my team. And now I can actually, now something big happened the other day that did not go the way that I wanted it, but I was able to constructively offer feedback and actually empower my colleague to, number one, own what they did solely without trying to be right, and also empower them to take an onus and create an environment where we both understand that excellence is the bare minimum, and everything that we do, we operate on it as if it was because it is, but it's our name behind that project. Whether or not you get credit for it or anything like that, you have to operate in excellence.
Absolutely.
So I would say that was definitely a challenge that I needed to overcome. It's something that I had to grow into. And a lot of challenges that I'm finding that I've had in the past or that I have are all boiled down to personal peace. And being at peace with myself is definitely, these last couple months, has been able to help me to see how I can make improvements and helping me to just make life easier and smoother.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Great. Good answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Question 2.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought of this as you were talking.
Mm-hmm.
How has your relationships, your romantic relationships, been affected by your dreams, your hustle, your drive? So many times, we're talking about the things that don't work, and how much we have to grind out. But how do you balance? So I'll let you answer this in whatever way that what you feel comfortable with. But how do you balance your personal romantic life and how has your relationships been affected? Maybe that's with friends or romantic, based off of your own aspirations and your own hustle.
I'll preface it by saying that for me, growing up in foster care from 9 months until 18, for many years, the only person that I had was myself, and the only thing that kept me going was my dreams, the things that I felt that, was just looking for a better day. So it's always been that no matter whatever happens, I have my dreams. That's bae. Just on a journey of inner peace, I would have to say that definitely it has affected relationships, my grind, because, again, it's number one to me, and it always has been. But understanding what the end goal is or what it is that I want out of life, in terms of, whether or not I want to be married or want to have children and want to have, that aspect of life as well, I look at it from a different perspective. But in the past, it's definitely been grind first. And I mean, I'm up. I remember it's just sometimes, you date people and you have a different schedule. I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I'm up late working, and then I'll get up early and work, and so it's kind of you might see your lady, right before, you about to go, or she's at your place, but you're still working up until she's falling asleep because she's got to be up and go to work at 9 o'clock or whatnot. So it's definitely affected it. And it's just been a growing process, I would have to say. Definitely a growing process.
Definitely. I could definitely relate to all of that.
Yeah. But I will say this, that I have had the opportunity to learn what works and what doesn't work for me. And I think one of the biggest things for me that I'll immediately stop dating someone if they ask me why do you work so hard? Or why do you get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning every single day to go to the gym? Or you know what I mean? Like, why are you so disciplined? Why do you work so hard? That's like an immediate, like, we not on the same page. You don't understand this.
I mean, we could talk about this for hours. Right. Okay, so my last question. Mm-hmm. This is a deep. This will tell me everything I need to know about you. Okay?
Right.
Cats or dogs? And why?
What?
Cats or dogs?
Cats
or another
dogs.
Animal? Are you a cat guy? A dog guy? Or another animal? Or not an animal person?
Hold on. In my house?
Do you prefer cats? Do you prefer dogs?
I prefer to grind.
Oh, come on.
I'm being 100% honest. Like, animals are cool, but at the same time, I'm like, like, here's my thing. The day that you see Kev Brown walking down the street, picking up poop after a dog, you're going to have to, I done thrown the towel in. Like, it's over. But I will say this, though. I did date this girl who did have a dog, and I definitely had walked him a few times. I personally, I'm focused, man. So I personally don't have animals at the moment. I feel like that's something either I would be in a relationship with somebody and they had an animal, or I would have kids and they would be like, we want a dog or a cat. And then...
Oh, so you could go either way. It doesn't matter to you.
Yeah, I'm not really...
I mean, you're comfortable with snakes.
Oh, nah. Nah. We ain't never gonna have that. That is not in my house. But, I do like koalas.
Okay.
But koalas are like really...
They're pretty vicious, though. I mean,
so their claws are really tight.
They're cuddly and cute, but... They could snap. I mean, that tells me something about your personality.
You think so? So here's the reason why I like them. Because I think they're I don't feel like a lot of people know about them. And I have this Monopoly board game that's like the international edition, the credit card version. And the oddest little icon is the koala. So me and my friends, like, we'll play when we play competitively. So I was like, all right, well, I'm the koala, right? Because it's random. And then I was like, I'm Koala Kev. So, yeah, just being weird. So that's kind of like how the whole koala thing came about. I feel like there was this one cartoon when I was younger where the koala used to eat eucalyptus, like cotton candy cones. It's random. And then I went to Australia and,
So that might be your inner animal, your inner spirit animal.
Nah. My inner spirit is definitely, it depends on what part of the spirit we talking about. You know what I mean? So it's layered. It's multidimensional, as we were talking about earlier.
All right.
Yeah. What about you? Cat, dog?
Oh, I'm
mouse?
a dog. I'm a dog person.
How many dogs you got?
I'm terrified of mice. I actually don't have any dogs. I had a dog a couple of years ago, and he passed. He was old, but I dog sit quite a bit. So people in my neighborhood, like, probably once a month, they'll see me with a different dog. They're all my friends' dogs, but my friends will want me to watch them for a day or two, and I'll keep them for a couple of weeks.
Well, if you got a dog today, what would you name it?
Oh man, I don't know. You put me on the spot. Maybe like Bruno or
what?
I mean, my last dog, his name was Cosmo. Okay. I feel like animals shouldn't have human names, like real, regular names. I think. What's that cat's name? Daddy Fat Stacks. Daddy Fat Stacks is on this show now. He's famous.
Right, super famous.
Daddy Fat Stacks and Getty.
Okay. Well, there is a cat in the building that I live in, and her name is Barbara. I just see her from time to time. So
yeah, that kind of creeps me out when animals have human names.
I'm just passing through. What's up, cat? Keep it pushing. So it's all good, She's pretty animal. All right, well, Marjuan, thank you so much for playing the turnaround.
Thank you.
All right.
You were very honest.
Yes, indeed. Beautiful people, if you enjoyed this episode of the Create Your Life series, be sure to download it from our podcast, which is available on createyourlifeseries.com, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Music. Also, be sure to leave a review of the podcast. You can catch us live on Sundays from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via 90.3 FM in New York or on Facebook Live at facebook.com/KevBrown1. We encourage you to participate in the conversation on Facebook or call in at 212-650-6903. Follow us on Instagram at CYLS Series and at Kevin Y. Brown. Be blessed, and we'll see you back here live next week.
Create your life.
Crée ta propre vie.
Create your life.
创造你的生活。
Create your life.
Crea la tua vita.
Create your life.
Und skip your liver.
You better create your life.
Create your life.
Crea la vie.
Create your life.
Create your life.